What ought to have been an auspicious occasion, the return of the World Rally Championship to Kenya, is fast turning out to be a moment of regret for a lot of people. Over the last 3 or so weeks, we have seen and have heard, met people whose lives have been turned upside down because the mistake they did, they tell me, was to associate themselves with this event. People that had waited for 19 long years and longer to be able to do business or to benefit from the return of the World Rally Championship to Kenya now feel that this event has been more of a curse than a blessing. People who had waited a generation to supply goods and services, the intellectual property in terms of technology and whatnot, now say they cannot associate themselves with this event anymore because it's ruining their lives. Hoteliers and people in the hospitality industry who had waited for an opportunity to provide accommodation, food and other services now say this event is turning out to be something else that they didn't expect, at least this year's event. Fans who had waited, for 19 years to see this thing. Journalists like myself who had never, seen a round of the World Rally Championship professionally and to be able to cover. We were looking forward to a good event and just to report positive stories. We've done that all right over these past few years, including the, the trial event that was held here. But right now, it's a different ballgame. Things are not the same. This isn't the WRC we thought it would be. This isn't. And so many people have reached out to me these past few days saying, look, speak on our behalf. Just say it. Just say that as it were. We are suffering. We are owed millions of Kenyan shillings. We are owed thousands of US dollars in unpaid bills, pending bills, payments, and contractual infidelities that they have seen over the past 1 year. It's something that they say they hadn't seen and they hadn't imagined that if they had known about it, then they wouldn't have bothered associating themselves with this event. I'm talking about people whose health have taken a beating over the last few weeks. People who are being chased around by auctioneers, banks, debt collectors, and so many other situations that they find themselves in. People whose properties have been attached to auctioneers. I know of one person who has lost his car. Another person's house is nearly on sale. One other person was telling me his business is now up for auctioning because then the auctioneers are threatening to come around and just take stock of what can be auctioned to recover the money that there is owed to him by the bank. And so we're having a situation like this where the WRC Safari Rally in Kenya is turning out to be a killer of dreams. It's turning out to be a killer of lives, at least in as far as the stories of those who are complaining at this moment is concerned. The secretariat of the World Rally Championship this time has really found it very rough. The Ministry of Sports changed the secretariat, fired a group of staff that were there, terminated the former CEO Phineas Kimathi, put in a new one with just 2 months before the event, fired members of the secretariat who had worked with the previous group to run this event, and now they find themselves in the midst of a labyrinth that on one side the rally project offices are facing a very serious audit in terms of how they spent the money and corruption allegations that are coming in. The Auditor General has already flagged a number of expenditures that are very questionable, and people are asking the anti-corruption agencies and the Directorate of Criminal Investigation now to play their part. You have a secretariat that has new members who are yet to undergo training. They have new volunteers and new members of staff that have not benefited from years of exposure and experience running this event ever since dreams were first created to bring this event back. So you have newbies who are struggling to find their. You have a secretariat that is fighting each other back, left, and center. You have claims of sabotage in there, backfighting, backstabbing within their very own ranks. You have a secretariat that is squabbling and fighting with vendors and suppliers, getting reports that some were actually physically ejected from these offices when they are asking for their unpaid monies from the year before and 2022. You have a secretariat that is struggling to impress the public and assuring them that everything is okay. Additionally, you have a secretariat that has been given mandate and pressure to deliver. Nobody wants to be in their space. Nobody wants to be in the place of the CEO and the head of the LOC at this moment, delivering the 2024 Safari Rally. Surely, no human being should be put under that kind of pressure and expected to deliver without taking performance-enhancing substances. And that is what many are probably finding themselves in at the moment. How do you deliver a world-class event with a very bad budgetary allocation, reduced budget, striking suppliers, vendors who have declined to provide their services for free, people who do not have contracts, and people who are demanding to be paid first before engaging with you. So you do not want to trade places with anyone right now at the WRC Safari Rally project in Kenya, because it's a very tough place to be. But at the same time, the sports ministry erred in changing, the formation and doing late substitutions at the dying time of the match. It was very unwise to change people in the 11th hour, to change the entire 10 members of a team, for instance, if it were football, on the extra time, 95th minute of a 100-minute football match. And this is a problem they find themselves in at the moment. And serviceable LOC as well as the secretariat are rusty to the core and unable to meet the demands of organizing a world-class event. If they had been given time, then I would believe they would have performed. And the Minister of Sports perhaps should have made these changes immediately last year's event was concluded. But now it's too late. That ship has already sailed through. It's left the dock, and now in the high waters, they are facing rough seas and rough waters for which they must navigate to get to the point. And this is the situation now we find ourselves in, that the WRC promoter himself has not been paid his fees. They haven't paid the Red Cross services and those who provided the ambulance services, for instance. They haven't paid those who provided branding and visibility. They have not paid hotels in Naivasha. They have not paid some of the security officers their dues, those who secured this event. They haven't paid small businesses and individuals who went over and above to provide services and ensure the last year's event was a success. But now they find themselves in the midst of a rebellion. The government pushing them on one side, impatient public on this side, money is being used and they want returns on it. And on the other side, drivers, the promoter of the event, and the FIA coming hard on everybody, wanting this event to match up to its international billing. People need to understand that we are likely to lose this event, even though we have signed a deal for it to be in this country until 2026. For as long as, despite the guarantees that have been given by government, we screw up and we put a mediocre, a very low level event, we provide mediocrity at the expense of professionalism, we are likely to lose this event. Kenya needs to know this. That again, the FIA has no sense of humor in this one. We screw it up, then another host is lined up already and take it. It could go to Morocco, it could go to South Africa, it could go anywhere. It could go to West Africa, it could go to North Africa, it could go anywhere. And Kenya will lose a big part of it. Heck, we didn't have this event in Africa for 19 years. We can lose it, within the snap of a finger. So as everybody is scrambling to get materials to Naivasha, to lay the cables here in Naivasha, in Kasarani, the fiber cable, and just to get ready for this event, you want to ask yourself, why were the changes made in the last minute? Why is it that people were allowed to to get away with corruption at the WRC project offices in Kenya for so long? Why is it the authorities themselves didn't act when the red flags went up? Are people within government direct beneficiaries of corruption at the WRC project offices in Kenya? And those perhaps could be the ones benefiting from this mess. What happens if we lose this event? What guarantee is there that we cannot lose it? Looking and considering what we have seen this year. We have people who are reaching out to me and say, please speak on our behalf. We have millions in pending bills, and we cannot speak about it because we risk, a retribution and victimization from the powers that be. But for me, sitting here, I can comfortably say that I have seen people whose lives have been, ruined, and I can comfortably sit here and speak for them and call out to those who are in charge that it's business as usual, that if we continue like this, we will lose the Safari Rally. We will lose the WRC mark on it and still remain with a shell that we know it's Safari Rally. The WRC has already killed the KNRC. The Kenya National Rally Championship is dead because of the WRC. And now we are killing it through corruption, we are killing it through bad governance, we are killing it through lack of transparency and accountability. And public funds are involved in this. And it's time those who have put this country on the list of shame as far as putting us where we are at the moment are concerned, then they must be held to account. So I want to believe my country will pull through this. I want to believe that the next few days, Kenya will put all the confusion behind. It gives me no pleasure reporting about the crisis of the WRC. As a journalist, as a media guy, I should be out there telling the public, we are ready, or this ought to be done, or the drivers are here, the cars are here. Hey, look at the new technology. Look at the new Ford, Focus. Look at the Yaris, the new technology, and compare with the last two editions of this vehicle that came here. But now I'm sitting here and calling out, those who are supposed to do their jobs. I'm sitting here just wondering how we can continue like this. And the biggest gatekeeping problem we have, I'm afraid, are journalists and media houses that are seeing the problem, but they have adopted see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, because maybe they want a share of the windfall that is business with the WRC. You have journalists embedded, inside, the organization of the WRC, conflicted as they are, but they wouldn't say anything about it. They see the problems here, but they choose to hide under the sand. And we're killing it. This profession takes a beating every time we do not uphold the oath of this profession. We've got to toast and roast in equal measure. But sometimes we cannot offer members of the public burnt sacrifice or burnt offering in the names of toasting or toast. That can't happen. Even if we don't respect ourselves, we must respect our audiences. They have seen there's no hype. They have seen there's no buzz. And they're asking us, what is it? And then we have to tell them the truth. The truth that the website was shut down because the WRC, Rally Officers Project in Kenya couldn't pay. The people who are doing social media iced the pages and walked away with the logins, and they refused to hand it over because they were not paid. That vendors have refused to provide tents, they have refused to provide services in Naivasha and in Nairobi here because they have not been paid. That hotels in Naivasha, including in Ashipai, threatened not to honor, any bookings by WRC and FI officials, including Government of Kenya officials, because they haven't paid. Well, they've scrambled to make some commitment, I understand, just to salvage this event. So we have to stay true to form. It's the least we can do to for this profession. If we're still doing journalism, then I think, and I'm convinced that we should do it. The old school type that demands us to have the guts, to have the backbone, just to say things as they are, without malice, without absolute malice or prejudice to anyone. You say it as it is. You are likely to offend people. You are likely to lose, opportunities here and there, but you have to stay true to form. You're going to have to stay, true to form. It's a long haul thing. It's not a sprint. journalism is a calling. Journalism is a long distance race that you have to go the distance. You have to remain evergreen. You don't have to get swayed, sometime on interest here and there. So journalists who are aware of the problem bedeviling the WRC organization in Kenya, but they are choosing not to speak because they are either affiliated with the organization or they are doing it for self-preservation purposes, are part and parcel of the problem that we are having now. If they had spoken up early, if they had spoken out early enough, then the government would probably have seen it and, take corrective measures. Government yields to pressure. Government yields to public, reaction from the public. And as we have seen lately, it works wonders. We are sitting here and government of Kenya has not even launched this year's event. We are sitting here and the LOC has not had a single press conference to appraise the public on the preparation of this event. None of it. Nothing from the Ministry of Sports, nothing from the local organizing committee, nothing from State House Nairobi, nothing. Up to us of this time. No periodic updates, nothing like that. If you compare that with last year, then you understand what I'm talking about. And I think they're just covering themselves in shame because there's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to smile about. And this is the reason we are probably sitting here, speaking on behalf of people who could be checking their blood levels now, checking their sugar levels now, just to make sure it doesn't spike up. I could be sitting someone here and somebody else who provided goods and services to the WRC Safari Rally project. He's being hounded by auctioneers. He probably hasn't slept at home for days, changed the phone numbers or put the phone on airplane mode, only choosing to communicate via WhatsApp or other applications, so that, they could at least have a peace of mind. People who have run out of excuses and reasons not, to their credit, to their debtors and people who are to their creditors. And we are sitting here thinking, okay, let's just forget about it. After all, we want to see the rally cars. You're going to see the rally cars all right. You're going to see the drivers all right. But you're also going to hear about the stories of people whose lives have been ruined by this WRC Safari Rally. It's fair to balance both sides of the equation, isn't it? And this is exactly what I'm doing.